Alright, good afternoon. Welcome back to Three Swords Gaming, where we continue our Guild Wars 2 0 to 0 the Zeroing playthrough, which is the second season, if you will. Season sounds so pretentious. But the second iteration of our 0 to 0 playthrough. We're just trying to add to this count, make this count more well rounded out. So the last episode was largely consumed by crafting, and I have no desire to do anything quite that boring this evening. I have another hour roughly available to me. So let's do something a bit more interesting. What I'd like to do is go ahead and gather some mastery points and maybe work on some masteries. Right now we are at, let's see here, 208, and our goal is 300, right? Which feels like a long way off, but I really don't think it is. I think that that's pretty easily achievable, and we got like a lot of opportunities here with End of Dragons, Icebrood Saga, where I guess we could just take that. There's one point right there. Man, that's like so useless though. But that's the way it goes. Like the Icebrood Saga masteries are useless, so it is what it is. But we can add to our number, right, with some of this stuff. So both gathering mastery points themselves, particularly here in Secrets of the Obscure, where we hardly have any, and also working on the mastery tracks. So that's what I'm going to spend all of today doing. Let's just dedicate some time to grinding some of that stuff out. Let's head over to the Secrets of the Obscure maps, because there's just a ton of mastery points still available to us there, and also a lot to do that I haven't really done. The only stuff I've done on this account, honestly, in Secrets of the Obscure, is the story. That's kind of it on this account, because I jumped right back into 0 to 0 once I finished my story playthrough portion on Secrets of the Obscure. So let's do that. Let's get rolling. Which map do we want to hit? You know what? Let's return to what is it? The Archipelago? Is it Skywatch Archipelago? Something like that. The Archipelagos, which is kind of weird. I mean, I guess they're a series of islands. They're not a series of islands in water. They're just a series of islands in the sky. Skywatch Archipelago. There should be at least 3 or 4 mastery points that are literally just communes waiting to happen for us. I'm not sure how many of them I actually grabbed during the story. Maybe hardly any at all. Maybe the only masteries we got were in the story. I'm not sure, to be honest. This was not the character we used for story, so we may have chunks of the map. Yeah, we do. Oh, we have the entire map. Alright, well, cool, man. Let's do it. It's not the worst thing in the world, because we're going to get a little bit of experience as we chunk away on this map as well. Not enough to really be substantive. Like, events will be substantive. And we'll probably do a few events as we come across them as well, because that experience is going to be useful also. We're going to end up grinding a bunch of events if we want to actually advance those mastery tracks. Like, it's just the way we're going to have to go about it. So, might as well kind of cope with that right now. And it's not such a bad thing. Like, the events in Guild Wars 2 are not terrible, and I certainly don't mean to present them as such. After you've done the same event like 15 times, then they become like slightly less engaging. That should probably go without saying, to be quite honest. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means I'm bad for doing the same event 15 times, right? The ley line thing with mounts, which we can't do right now because we're nowhere close to having that, is a really interesting thing, because it just grabs you and whisks you away, almost whether you want it or not. And I find that to be very, like on my main account, where I have these masteries, I feel it's like it's jarring to be cruising along and you hit a ley line and suddenly you're on your way to some place that you didn't necessarily plan to go. Oh, buddy, are you okay? Oh, I can't get up there. There's like an invisible wall blocking me. Oh, it like scoots me away. I can't get to him. Well, sorry, dude. Life is hard, I guess. Or so I'm told. My life's not hard. It's incredibly easy, all things considered. Is that like a horrible thing to say? When so many people's lives are hard?
for another try, old friend?
Oh, is the meta about to happen?
Until I'm rejoined, I don't really think I'm going to be able to control the forge well enough.
Ooh, do we want to do the meta?
I'm afraid we're running out of both time and options. We have to try.
You always manage to talk me into these things. Fine. Come to the forge and we'll lay out the plan.
We could use your help as well, Commander.
You know, doing the meta might not be the worst idea. One, have we actually done it for like the special objectives in the Wizard's Vault here? Oh no, they changed it. Wait. No, it's still there. 450. Like that alone probably makes it worth it, right? I feel like the answer is probably yes in that regard. It's probably a worthwhile investment of our time, just for the astral acclaim in this particular case. Is there also? I don't remember if you get a mastery for doing the meta event the first time or not. And did we not do it once already on this account? Didn't we do it as part of the story playthrough? I thought we did, but maybe not. Am I gonna be able to get up out of here? Oh, that looks like a big old nope. Oh, we have updrafts. I didn't remember having updrafts. Alright, cool. When did we get updrafts? We must have got it during the story playthrough. We must have generated enough experience to be able to grab that. I had completely forgotten. Wow. That says a lot about my level of investment, right? Alright, on our way to do the meta, because we're going to have to kind of run there because we don't have waypoints in this particular character, and I prefer to stay on this character. Let's see if we have this mastery point over here, because there is one like right there. I'm surprised we can't already see it. I bet we have that one. It's just so easy to get. Like, how could you possibly miss it? Oh, and we don't have it. So apparently I missed it. Or just didn't bother doing it.
Just one more confirmation of how great I am.
Nice. 2 master points right off the bat. Feels good. Wonder if this map, I see a mentor tag. I do not see a commander tag. Now, that isn't to say that they're not doing the meta on this map. I just wonder, like, how adequately we're currently manned on this map. We'll find out. We'll find out in just a second. Let's grab the waypoint before we do anything else, though. Oh, get off the wall, dude. Alright. Oh, man, but, like, no one even looks like they're doing the... Well, we'll see what happens. I'm not gonna skip maps. This wasn't my doing the meta event was not my original objective, so I'm not sure it's worth skipping or changing maps to facilitate the meta event when it wasn't our primary objective in the first place. So we'll just see how it works out. If people do it, great. If they don't, hey man, like we're here for mastery points, right? And I can live with that.
I can't believe we finally pulled that off. And yet,
It still isn't enough. I see our mistake now. We captured only one facet, but we need the whole spectrum.
so we'll have to gather essence of every facet that leaked out from the tower.
That should happen right over here.
Sorry, leader, but I don't know if I can do it.
Then we'll do it together. It's gonna be up to you to gather it, Commander. You'll have to scour these islands for essence of each facet. The ward will assist, of course, but we're entrusting this to you.
We'll stay here and try to keep it going as long as we can.
Oh, I'm in the wrong phase. I came down here for this phase, but It's at the various islands phase right now. Alright, well, let's get up out of here, run to one of the islands, and participate in the events on that island. Not just in the interest of participating, but also in the interest of maybe coming across another master point along our way. We'll head to an area where we haven't been yet, see if there's anything there for us. Isn't there a mastery near? There's like 2 of them down here. Maybe we'll head over that way. I think there's 2 there. I don't remember. I think there's 1 in Garenhof, which we may not have yet. Where are we headed? Alright, we're fine. One of them's like over here, I think. Okay, we should be able to see now. Yeah, right there. We're headed right for it. It's like in a weird spot, like back behind this sword or something. Or is it up here, up high? Is that it right there? Yeah, there we go. There's another one.
The sooner we get this essence, the sooner I can get back to fighting the cryptids. Somewhere cooler, ideally. There's no shortage of spare around here, that's for sure. So get to work.
Oh man, are we the only one working on this? Are these all vets? I think vets are a daily today though, so... Oh, I'm not even on Axe. So killing a few vets might not be the worst thing in the world. Assuming that I don't manage to, like, mess it up somehow. Get myself killed through some nonsense. Oh man, I pulled a lot. Oh, whoa, that was fast. We should be able to drop this Warhound and get back up. Maybe? Ooh, debatable actually. Yeah, that wasn't helpful. And we don't have the, oh, we straight up did die. Okay, let's grab that on our way back then. Again, we're here for one thing. That was master points. So, yeah, let's contribute to the events by all means, but...
That essence they're looking for is popping up all over the area. I won't lie, things are bad here. But if you can help these villagers, it'd go a long way.
I'll do what I can. Let's help some villagers on our way to that master point. Let's assume that someone else is going to take care of the Path of Fire area. What's that called? I don't remember.
One last push and we should have enough essence. You're making a real difference, you know? I know not everyone trusts you, but I'm glad you're here.
You know, these turrets really cause some problems, all things considered. Which I think is the intent, right? Because they want you to use Sky Scale 2. They want you to use your mount's attack ability, like the, you know, shoot fireballs from your Sky Scale. So they made... Yeah, that's what I expected. There we go. Alright, less of an issue now.
That should cover
There we go.
this area.
Alright, let's find that master point.
I'll rest a little easier tonight. I'm sure Mabon
And
Lear
yes,
will
we
need
will
us.
happily take that
Don't worry.
experience.
I'll keep an eye on everything here.
Oops, missed my landing. Alright, in relation to where we are... oh yeah, that's right, it's like up here. I don't have that one yet? I thought for sure I grabbed that one during the story. Guess not. Oh, that was just foolish. That was nonsense. I made that so much harder than it had to be. There we go. And still botched it up. I'm currently giving a master class on how not to use a sky scale. Alright, good times. Another master point. Why don't we head back to the desert-y area? Grab the waypoint on our way. That way we don't find ourselves zipping around the map again just because we got ourselves killed.
I can't believe this plan.
Ah, someone finished it. Cool. Well, thank you for that. Are there a whole bunch of people doing this event? Let's do it. Let's get that experience.
Dangers that come with it.
Why not?
I've survived worse. It's gotta be done. So we might as well get to it.
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing? I should say I'll be doing better if we actually complete this meta event. I'll take that astral claim 100%. No, I think it's a shame that there were folks who felt like the new daily system. No, so in fairness, is it perfect? It is not perfect. So if there are folks out there saying, "Hey, it's not perfect," like I get it, man. I get it. Oh, Requiem armor from like season 4. That's old school. That was a good set too, honestly. Very good set. And I enjoyed, aside from the sigil and nullification, which was a whole thing at that point in time, I enjoyed the process. But when that armor set first came out, it drove the sigil and nullification up in cost several thousand% or more, and that hurt some feelings. People were not happy about that. But yeah, I think Astral Acclaim's great. I think the new daily system's great. Big fan. Yeah, so the sigil and nullification had never been used for anything meaningful prior to that armor coming out. And it had never been part of the meta. Like what it brought to the table wasn't something that most people felt was like meaningful to their gameplay. So it was like a trash sigil. Like the 2 silver, 64 copper, or whatever it is that an exotic sigil goes for it, like as merchant trash. That's what the sigil was worth. Right up until you needed a mess of them. I want to say it's like 64 of them for that armor. And so suddenly it went from being vendor trash to being worth like multiple gold per sigil. I think it peaked at like 10 gold, but that was for a very brief period of time. And then it consistently was at several gold for months after the fact. And these days I think it's come quite a bit back down. I'm assuming you didn't have to pay like exorbitant amounts of gold for that sigil. Hopefully you're able to get it for 20 or 30 each. Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the new daily system. I think when the new daily system first launched, there were folks who did some sort of like rudimentary math and were like, oh, we're not getting nearly as much gold as we used to get. And I think that math... Ooh, I missed. That math failed them a little bit. Not that their concerns weren't at least to some degree warranted, but it proved to be incorrect. The amount of gold you can get from the new daily system is crazy. And on this playthrough, I will probably at times rely on Astral Acclaim to get gold, which may not be the like I don't know if it's the first thing I would encourage a new player to grab with gold, or I mean with Astral Acclaim, but it is not a bad use of Astral Acclaim at all. And specific to this playthrough, I may actually use Astral Acclaim to grab a few tomes, which normally I wouldn't necessarily encourage people to do, but in order to get certain tunes where I want them to be, I may actually do that. Why not? This isn't my main account. On my main account, I've almost already purchased like everything with Astral Acclaim that I can purchase. So. Really, have you noticed the difference in, because I thought the trading post was the same for both EU and NA, but I may be incorrect on that. I did have a count on EU at one point in time. Actually, my main account was on EU at one point in time, and that was because I had a friend in another part of the world who I discussed playing the game with, and so I moved over to EU, and then it ended up that she couldn't play, so then I just had an account on EU. That was also shortly after World vs. World linking, and I was pretty salty about the whole linking thing, and so I no longer felt an obligation to like stick to any one server. The value of servers evaporated with linking, in my opinion. At least if you're a World vs. World player. Servers have no value if you're not a World vs. World player anyway. Alright, nice. I think, based on how the pre's went, I think we're going to have a relatively successful map at the minute. Huh, that's really interesting. Especially the difference in Mystic Coins and Ecto. I never would have imagined that those have different price points. Considering they're both like fundamental. Like Ecto is the gold standard of Guild Wars 2. Like that is what our currency is. Like gold as a Guild Wars 2 currency is almost tied to Ecto more than Ecto is tied to gold. In terms of like the economics of Guild Wars 2. At least as far as I can see. I'm not... Like there are some folks that are super, super knowledgeable on the Guild Wars 2 economy. From like a genuine... like almost like economist point of view. And I'm not one of them, so I'm not quite as knowledgeable on that as they are. But it seems to me that the consistency in Ecto prices is like an indicator of economic health in Guild Wars 2. What did that give us? Vitality, toughness? Nah, man, we grabbed the wrong food. Condi and expertise, we still grabbed the wrong food. Power precision, I like it. Let's stick with this.
If we lose the snares, there's no way to control them.
Boils up from below.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about people using Ecto as a currency is that actually predates Guild Wars 2. So in the original game, because of the way the economy was balanced in the first game, and the limits to how much you could exchange with other players, players started adopting Ecto as the currency of choice for exchanging large amounts of gold. Because you could exchange significantly more via Ecto than you could via raw gold. So that actually goes back to the first game. But because Ecto has both high usage and high faucet, or high input, I guess. I don't know what the proper economic term would be there. High supply, high demand, let's say. So the turnover rate on Ecto is just insane. But that also, I think, contributes to its stability. Now it has gone up lately. Like, we're gonna get killed looking at this. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing here. 25 is actually historically fairly high for Ecto. I think if you were to say over the course of the game, what is like the appropriate price for Ecto, I think generally you would land somewhere around 16 silver as like a historically consistent price for Ecto. So our economy is much like, you know, many world economies right now, kind of experiencing a little bit of inflation. But unlike the world economy, where you have this myriad of factors, I think it's much simpler in game, and it may just be as simple as the introduction of the Wizard's Vault plus an influx of new players has led to more gold generation and more ecto generation both. Again, not an economist. Pretty stupid when it comes to that fact. Like, our U.S. Army Infantry School does not teach economics. Not even a little bit. So, who knows, man?
I could outrun a centaur.
Wow, we're kind of burning this guy, like, surprisingly fast. Alright, I'll take it. Purge the crystal. This crystal? No, this crystal. I can't click on it. Whammy. Crystal purged. It's interesting how many times I've completed this meta event, kind of having no idea what I was doing, to be quite frank. Yeah, you're definitely not the only person who's suggested that they need to increase the cap on how much gold players can exchange. And particularly that conversation has been centered around certain items like infusions, invisible slippers, those two things in particular. Oh, and some of the ultra rare drops from Black Lion chests, like the indestructible, trading post or something like that, right? I think, however, the studio views any single item costing more than 10,000 gold as a sign of imbalance in the economy. And I think they'd prefer to see those items drop below 10,000 gold instead of raising the cap. I think that is ArenaNet's preferred solution to those scenarios. I also think that the cap exists in the first place to mitigate real money transactions.
Press on. We are to bring Lear back. Corruption is spreading through his mind now. Into
Time
his
to do
more
some real
recent
damage.
memories. We have to hurry.
I want a sweet campfire treat, and I can't get to it. My golem can, though. My golem can eat the treat.
Snares. We'll need to charge them again. I am sorry, friends.
Really interesting meta event, and kind of, in general, really interesting stuff going on throughout Secrets of the Obscure, where I think conceptually, like, it's cool. Conceptually, the idea of like the emotion as a power or a magical force is really an interesting thing. And then it ends up feeling like it feels less. Do I want to say less mature? Kind of feels like a anime for 14-year-olds when you're actually playing through it. And yet conceptually, I think it's a very interesting concept. So. Or a very interesting thing to examine. So, yeah, it's funny how that played out. But that tends to be the case with video game stuff in general, I guess. It's just not a good storytelling medium. Really. Because it's so hard to invest in that level of production value. Yeah, definitely, when it comes to selling gold, like, different studios have had very different approaches. I think most studios would prefer to limit like real money transactions, although some studios seem to have not avoided that and are very okay with like someone on Discord or the subreddit or something like selling something for significant amounts of money. And I know there have been some historical examples of people paying thousands of dollars for in-game stuff, which is crazy to me. I think ArenaNet wanted to avoid it because their fear is that too often those things come from stolen accounts, which is obviously like less than optimal. Their solution was the gold for gems exchange, as a that was one of their mitigating not factors, but like one of the things they did to mitigate. And I think actually that has been effective at limiting RMT in Guild Wars 2. Certainly, it still happens. It absolutely still happens. We got to get back down there. But I think it has been limited by the fact that you can simply, grind out raids or dungeons or fractals or whatever, and buy things from the gem store that you want. Almost everything except actual expansions, which you can't do that with. And I think it creates a nice balance between like your like Mighty Teapot's 0-0 centered around the idea that he would get all the things he wanted, like from the gem store and everything, through gameplay. And that provides a really nice balance to the dude who makes $160,000 a year, but enjoys Guild Wars 2 and would prefer to just use his credit card to get the things that he wants out of the game. Because that's how the studio's making money. The studio does not make money out of Teapot buying everything he wants from the gem store through gameplay. They make zero money off that. But then that whale, who's a whale by virtue of the fact that he's winning the game in other parts of life, it just creates that balance. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very desirable system. I think there's this catchphrase that I kind of don't love because it's kind of a little bit memey, but like the game that respects your time, right? Well, if you're someone who can dedicate 8, 10, 12 hours a day to the game, then being compensated for that in a way that other players might not be is kind of respecting the time you put in. People generally use that phrase in, more to refer to people like me who only have, today being a work day, I have 1 hour to dedicate to the game. Maybe an hour and a half if I want to eat dinner late. But some folks played the game for 12 hours today, so they respect my time by giving me an event that is rewarding in the 1 hour I have to play. They respect their time by compensating 12 hours of gameplay with things that might cost me cash. And I don't know. I mean, is it fair to say that's a win for everybody? It might be. If you wanted to make that argument, like, I'd be A-okay with it. You know what I mean? Oh, I wasn't even watching that. I was talking and not watching to make sure all 3 lanes were. We're good. We're good. Good job, everybody. This part's so weird, because I can never find Lear. There he is. Oh, I'm eager to see if their fixes to the treasure chest work. To the reward chest, because that would be real nice.
Lear, can you hear me?
Alright. Oh, man, so we got a couple dailies in that process anyway. And we got our 450 astral claim right there. That's a good chunk of astral claim we're sitting on now. And I feel like we're going to be able to put that to use. Maybe just for gold. All that crafting dropped our gold reserves pretty severely. What are we at? 62 gold? That's not a lot, honestly. And yet for many players it is. The distance between the 1% and 99% in Guild Wars 2 is kind of crazy. I've been playing the game since beta, since the first open beta. Of course, it was drastically different then. So I played Guild Wars 1 like off and on. I enjoyed Guild Wars, the first Guild Wars game. I was not way into it though, so I did not I never got a map completion, which was very hard in that game. I never got some of the titles that people run around with. Like I haven't maxed out the Eye of the North rewards or anything like that. But I was into the first Guild Wars game. Did I just get 2 chests in? And then when Guild Wars 2 rolled out, I completely fell in love with it. I think its combat system is spectacular, or at least very good. It's a hell of a lot better than some other MMOs I've played. For my money, Final Fantasy XIV is very good, but feels kind of slow. Black Desert Online is very button spammy, and also kind of a like you have to enjoy a certain type of gameplay. You have to enjoy a certain type of world to enjoy BDO. Elder Scrolls Online is actually a really good game. I just had trouble getting into it. But at the end of the day, like Guild Wars 2 has proven to consistently be the MMO that I can stick with. So I guess I'm at about 12 years in the game now, if you go all the way back to like the open betas. It's changed so much over that time. The core things that I love about it have stayed good. Some of the things that are disappointing about it, unfortunately, have stayed disappointing. But, you know, that's the way it goes. It's a game that has more good than bad. Alright. Can we get some more mastery points? There's got to be a few more running around here that we haven't grabbed yet. We did not get one for the meta. But then again, we'd already done the meta before. Ah, there's one hanging out right over there. You know what? Let's mark it. If I recall correctly, it's in like a weird niche underneath some of this stuff. Man, not only was the Astral Acclaim good from that meta event, but the experiences. Like, that's helpful too if we're going to grind out some masteries. There it is. Now, I should be clear. Having been in the game for a long time does not necessarily equate to, like, being good at the game. I'm not necessarily particularly good at the game. That's a combination of a few factors. I just don't have the dexterity to like use my MMO mouse to its full capacity, and that affects like rotation and stuff like that. But I also don't want that to be a cop-out because I also don't invest heavily like in my rotation. It's not needed for the content I play. I find like the high-end end-game content, like raids, to be a little bit stressful. And because I get enough stress at work, particularly when I was in the military, but even now I have enough stress at work, I don't need it in Guild Wars 2. So I stick to content that I find to be zero stress. And that doesn't require me to practice. I don't want to practice in my video games. Yeah, it's super beginner friendly. I agree with that. And I think it has a really, really good range between floor and ceiling. And I understand, like, there are definitely folks out there who feel like the ceiling is not high enough. Like, even the hard content in Guild Wars 2, Harvest Temple Challenge mode, isn't hard enough. And I sympathize with their plight, not in Guild Wars 2, but in other aspects of my life where I felt like I wasn't challenged or whatever. Like, I'm sympathetic to that feeling. So for those folks, maybe the ceiling could be higher, but I feel like the ceiling and floor, like in Guild Wars 2, provides a really broad range. You know, the fact that I can play with my daughter and we can both have a lot of fun, I think says a lot about like the strength of Guild Wars 2. One of the great things that it brings to the table. Not that she's like terrible at the game. She's proficient. We've cleared, dungeons together numerous times. Tier 1 fractals together a number of times. We even cleared a strike together once, but that was kind of a one-off thing where we had some friends facilitating that for us. I don't know that we would do that under normal circumstances. Alrighty. What else we got? There's one over here. Yeah, I knew there was one in Gear. Oh, there's two in Garenhof. That's the other one in Garenhof. We can get there from here. Let's mark it though, or else I'm gonna miss it. It's certainly possible. Although I would also suggest that they. Ooh, are we gonna be able to get high enough? We can if we use this. That'll pick us up. That issue is gonna gravitate towards whatever that like the exclusivity and kind of the locking people out of certain content. The get good philosophy is always going to reside in whatever the highest level content is. So if there were even harder raids or even harder CM strikes, then that's where that would reside. And really interesting perspective on that is there was a time, believe it or not. Now this is way earlier in like the Guild Wars 2 power creep spectrum, which recently has been a topic of conversation because the power creep has been so significant recently. But it was always a little bit of a thing. Early in the game, that toxicity resided in core dungeons. And getting a party just in core dungeons, like if you were a necro or a ranger, you would join a party and immediately get kicked because you were necro or because you were ranger. And there were very specific reasons that was happening at that point in time in the game's life. But yeah, so that did exist, and that was during the period of time when like speed runs were the goal for a lot of the dungeons. COF 1, like people were running it in like, I don't know, I think my fastest run was about 7 minutes and change. Certainly people were doing it a lot faster than that, and that was with like core specs, no elite specs at that point in time. So and I'm not that good, so if I was doing it in 7 minutes and change, like people were doing it a lot faster. But then if a run took 15 minutes, 20 minutes, people would be outraged. People would be quitting the party, et cetera, et cetera. And you can contrast that to my first ever dungeon run, which was Ascalon Catacombs. I don't remember which path, and my party took about 45 minutes just to complete Ascalon Catacombs, one of the paths. So that dynamic of like certain toxicity existing, I'm afraid is always going to be there in some way, shape, or form. What a high skill ceiling does is it takes that toxicity of the get good philosophy and moves it to the highest tier, and freeing up a majority of the rest of the content for quote unquote casual players. And in fairness, the casual player who constantly expects to be carried through hard content is also a form of toxicity. So certainly there's an argument to be made on both sides of that coin. Alright, what do we got on this map? Alright, so this character has been at least some areas in this map. We got what? Some of these are a trick to get to. That one's easy to get to. Some of these are like way up high on the towers. We might have to get creative. Captain Spaulding in map chat. I knew a guy in the army named Spaulding, but I can assure you he would never, ever make the rank of captain under any circumstances. So presumably that's not him. Seems like it would be physically impossible. Alright. How are we doing now? We got, let's see. 10. Nice. And are we training what we want to train? I feel like the answer is yes on combat launch. Man, these are just, like, not exciting to me. We should start working on these as well, even though the payoff on those isn't, like, profound. At some point we should work on. And I bet you there are mastery points that we still haven't grabbed in Path of Fire, Heart of Thorns, Ender Dragons 2. Never mind Iceberg Saga. I almost don't even want to touch Iceberg Saga, though. Like, do we just care so little that we could just go ahead and cash in that one right now? What is this? Oh. Man. It's only worth 2 anyway. Like, do we care? Metazuka. We'll take it. Boom. Alright, there's 3 more points anyway. What is this? Ah, we got a letter about the Metazuka. That's exciting. That's a good name, too, Metazuka. Yeah, you know, I do still enjoy doing the dungeons. In fairness to... I shouldn't say... For perspective, however, part of the reason I enjoy doing dungeons is because I want a low-stress environment, very low-stress gameplay in the limited time I have available. They make for great group content. Join a party, charge through it, get a reward, you know, get dungeon frequenter from time to time, and then be happy with that. And yes, some of the dungeon skins are good as well, so that provides like a little bit of extra incentive as well. The rewards they're not terrible. They're probably better than T1 fractals. If you, like I do, because in fairness, I do limit myself, like, generally speaking, to T1 and T2 fractals, the rewards in dungeons are going to be comparable to T1 and T2 fractals. They're certainly not going to be worse. They might actually be better. Certainly not as good as like T4 dailies. T4 dailies are going to crush fractals crush dungeons in terms of your value for your time. But T1 fractals, probably not. You're probably going to get more out of your time in dungeons. So I think it's a shame more players don't realize, like especially new players, they're told that the core dungeons are not very good. And in some ways they're not. There's like odd little idiosyncrasies and bugs that should have been fixed a decade ago and stuff like that. But probably still worth your time if you're looking, you know, just for some very simple group content. One of the things I encourage new players to do with dungeons is, because they're very low risk group content, because of where they're at in the game's kind of iteration, it's a great place to practice group comp, practice some of the mechanics that you would use, like stacking. It kind of kills me that people don't stack in dungeons anymore, because they will stack in strikes and raids. So dungeons present a great opportunity to practice some of those things. And I would like to see more players, the skills that they believe they need and do in fact need for some other like end game content, they could be practicing in dungeons and using that to. And I do from time to time encounter someone in dungeons who's saying, "Hey, I'm trying out, you know, bear with me, guys. I'm trying out a new build, and I want to nail the rotation." Like, that's awesome. What better place to do it?
Mine. All mine.
So, like, yeah, 300 to 400 gold is, for some players, like very little, and I think for some players is a ton. I think there's a meaningful part of the population of Guild Wars 2 who almost never has more than like 20 or 30 gold in the bank. Which is really interesting, because depending on what your priorities are, you could easily generate thousands of gold. I don't, because that's not where my priorities lie. I also keep all my materials. I put all materials into material storage. So my ability to generate gold is going to be like drastically impeded by that, right? But if you don't value having materials in your material storage, and you know, if you make grinding out gold your priority, then you can generate a ton of gold pretty quickly. And you know, I think Loranity did a video recently on like gold farming, and you know, it was pretty solid and gave a lot of perspective on like how much gold can be generated relatively easy. I guess rifts. Apparently rifts can generate a lot of gold, which is interesting to me, because I consider them like almost non-content. I'm not a rift fan, but apparently you can generate a lot of gold that way, which is good. At least they got something going for them. I do need to grind out a bunch of rifts on my main account though, because if I'm going to pursue the legendary armor, I'm going to have to do it.
Another personal victory.
You know, I almost want to, now that we're talking about it, I almost want to maybe just knock out a dungeon. How much time I got left today? Anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, we've grabbed a few mastery points. I wonder if anyone's doing any dungeons. Let's take a look. It will be sad if no one's doing anything. Story. I'm gonna pass on a raw. I wonder how far they are in that story. Switch it up. Switch it up. Let's see. You know what? We'll take a level. We'll take a level on this team. Yes, I agree. I agree. I like earning skins in some capacity. Now, I will say, because one of my goals for this playthrough is to hit 1,000 skins, which is an achievement. I forget the name of the achievement now. I have it marked. We can check it out in just a second. So in order to hit that in a timely fashion, I'm going to end up buying a lot of skins. In fact, I have some skins here that I need to go and grab, just like random skins that I don't have unlocked. But there's definitely some skins that I want to... Am I too low for CM? I am by 1/2 of a level. Alright. There's an app for that. But also on this playthrough, like, there's certain skins that I'm acquiring through collections and stuff, because that is a fun way to acquire skins, and it feels rewarding to get them that way. On my main account, a vast majority of my skins were obtained through natural gameplay versus buying them, and that does feel like really good. I do find my main account satisfying, just because even though I'm not amazing at the game, like all the things, having all these things at your disposal and seeing like the progress feels really cool. I think it's why MMOs appeal to people so much, because there's a sense of like long-term progress. All right, is that party still available? Watch, they're full. They're not full. Let's see what they got going on. Oh, did they just like... Oh, no, they're, They just finished killing all the, bandits in that big room.
This is new.
They should be downstairs killing bandits now. Do I get that chest? Nope. Yeah, when they reintroduced Living World Season 1, I think that was great for the game. I think a lot of people were disappointed that it delayed new content, because they rolled it out almost like it was its own Living World season. And I think that was a bummer for some players, and I get why. Players who had already experienced Season 1, probably that didn't feel good to have that occupied by something they'd already played. But I was really glad that they reintroduced it, and I think all things considered, they did a great job of rolling it out. They took a lot of open world content. Folks who were around when Season 1 was live will remember that a vast majority of Season 1 content was like open world content, and didn't always feel good. Like the Aetherblade invasions were really like borderline toxic, because people were so competitive about tagging, and enemies were dying so quickly, and they felt like they didn't get the loot they deserved, and there was a lot of hurt feelings around that. The original Marionette was extremely toxic. It was an event. It's kind of a cool meta event, and it demonstrates a lot of the characteristics that we associate with good meta events now. However, the way Marionette in particular was designed at that time enabled a single player to troll an entire server by ruining the event, and that proved to be incredibly problematic for Marionette at that point in time. So when they reintroduced Season 1, they did so many things that made it feel better to play through. Yes, I totally have like rose tinted glasses about season one when it was live. It was so cool, super exciting. But honestly, not all the content was designed well. The season one story is actually like kind of borderline ridiculous. So when they reintroduced it, they smoothed out some of those rough edges, and it was cool. And they introduced, to your point, they introduced some really great rewards. Um, you know, not only some of the cosmetic stuff, but also the bags, the high capacity bags. I don't remember what the capacity is, maybe 24 slots. Um, Super awesome to just play through that content and get a bunch of 24 slot bags. Um, I greatly appreciated that. What have I got here? Short bow. Oh, look, it's one of the guys who. So, Muckluck recently in a video had some really interesting things to say about the bug fixes they recently did. I think it was Muckluck. It might have been Teapot. It was either Muckluck or Teapot. About how they fixed what triggered the bug, but not the bug itself. And as a result, they're still, even though they fixed the fractals that were broken that people were upset about with very specific fixes, the actual bug still exists in the game where characters with certain animations will get locked if you attack them consistently. And that bandit that had the bomb was an example of that. His animation never completed to lay down the bomb, and so he just stood there and died. And that was because he got like animation locked as an NPC. Never got through the animation of laying down the bomb because he kept getting attacked. And the attacks essentially were just interrupting him. And that is, it feels like that's relatively unlikely to get fixed. Now that it's not affecting a fractal CM, it's just affecting, in this case, like story mode Codicus Manor. Did you hate Tower of Nightmares for season one, or you hate the fractal? Because I think the fractal's pretty good. The season one playthrough portion is kind of painful if you get it if it's empty. It's awful if it's empty, actually. I will agree with that, like 100%. Alright, well. That was easy peasy. Yeah, the public event for both Lion's Arch and Tower of Nightmare, I was kind of surprised that they designed them without... It appears they designed them without due consideration to what they would feel like a year later or whatever when they were empty. And that's really disappointing because as much as they... I was just talking about how good they did, or what a good job they did reintroducing season one. But yeah, that's an excellent observation. Lion's Arch and Tower of Nightmares, both really, really feel bad if you're the only one in there, or if there's only 2 or 3 people in there. It feels like it takes an incredible amount of time. All the elites feel overtuned, at least at my skill level. And I can kill them, but it just takes that much more time. Or if I end up with 2 or 3 elites, then maybe I don't kill them. Maybe I go down. So it can feel very punishing, for sure. And you don't want to be punished for playing a game. Like, that's not why any of us play the game. Or maybe a handful of people do, but not me. I guess we should equip some of this stuff. I mean, oh yeah, you know what? We can use staff now. Weapon Master. Throw staff on a level 41 thief. Why not? Let's do it. I guess we could throw a rifle on her too, but I kind of don't like rifle as a thief weapon, to be honest. It doesn't feel very good to me. Alright, I think we're good. I don't like sword on thieves. I think it's a better PvP weapon than it is PvE weapon. Wait a minute. I wonder if we can get one more. If anyone's doing AC, I could get another level on this character real quick. Not that leveling alts was ever part of the playthrough, but I think leveling alts feels amazing. That's why I have too many characters across too many accounts. I think it's an amazing feeling. Let's see. Ooh, there's only one person. We'll do it. We got the time. We got the time today. And 50 silver won't hurt the bank. It's not very much, but it won't hurt us. Grab an extra 50 silver. Ooh, level 39, and I'm level 41. Ooh. We might actually have to, maybe challenged here if we don't get some more people join. Yeah, so I don't think, like 99% of players, I don't think can complete Tower of Nightmares public event solo. Is there someone who can? I'm sure there's someone who can, but I think broadly speaking, yeah, you're correct. I don't think that most players can do it. I tried once, and I certainly did not complete it. That's for damn sure. What they do give you in order to advance the story is as you kill enough enemies in there or complete enough events, you advance like a little green bar, and so eventually you basically get to skip the instance or skip the public event. But that doesn't mean you completed the public event. That just means you suffered enough to earn the right to skip it, which is not the same thing. And I'm afraid, if I had to guess, I honestly don't know, but if I had to guess, I would guess that that's what a lot of people are doing these days. Because I assume that that's not completed terribly often. I might be wrong. I'm on NA. Yeah. No, if you want to join, you're more than welcome to join. We can punch through this dungeon real quick before I call it a night. You said you were on EU though, didn't you? I think you said that earlier. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you transferred. Yeah, by all means. As far as I know, we're the only ad for Ascalon Catacombs is up. Yep. So realistically, at level 80, I bet you we could just blast through this. Whether or not, let's see, who opened the party? Jujo? Whether or not Jujo wants to, I don't know. But, realistically, we probably could. In fact, it's not even a probably. Realistically, we absolutely could. I've done this one solo a few times myself, and I know a great many other people have. It's not bad at level 80. And we filled up anyway. Nice. I always wonder about the one person who doesn't seem to be joining, if it's a
Lethal combination.
if they know where to go. I always worry about that. We're gonna get spiders? We're gonna get nothing. Oh, in combat. Alright, cool.
You have no right to be here. Go back to your own lands.
Oh no, is the boss up? Right when I get a text message. Perfect timing. I love it. Alright. We'll be alright. So I saw an interesting thing today. Mildly entertaining. Forum post. I don't really spend time in the forums, but sometimes my phone will recommend forum posts to me just because of like Guild Wars searches and stuff like that. You know, Google algorithms and whatnot. So apparently someone posted on the forum that they hated Weapon Master and they want it to go away because it's a problem for balance. Which it is a problem for balance, 100%. But it like everyone should have known it was going to be a problem for balance as soon as it was announced. Like we didn't need to have it for a month to know it was going to be a balance problem, and certainly the studio knew it was going to be a balance problem, right? Like there's no way they didn't decide to roll that out without being aware of that. So I don't know that like a whole lot of talk about balance issues surrounding Weapon Master is like really benefits anyone, whether it's on the Reddit or forums or whatever the case may be. It was always going to be part and parcel with Weapon Master. But folks who are like super concerned about, I think it's not even balance; it's the nerfs that are associated with the balance patch. I think is actually what people are upset about. Which is interesting because I don't think, if I'm being honest, that the average player is going to notice the nerfs that much. Not really. The average player is not pumping out like 45,000 damage per second. Going through Ascalon Catacombs story mode. Like you're just not. So if you got nerfed from 45 to 40. You're not going to notice that in most content. You're only going to notice it in Strikes and Raids. No, I don't mind because as far as like I don't have a massive audience. I don't mind answering any questions. So, as far as I know, you're the only person watching. And to answer your question, Necro is my favorite class. More specifically, Reaper. That's a combination of I think it feels really good to play. Like it is genuinely like a fun class for me to play. It also is kind of, I've always felt like it's Guild Wars 2 easy mode. Reaper Shroud, it just melts everything. Even, regardless of kind of where we end up on balance, Reaper Shroud just tends to be really, really powerful. And it might not on a raid boss or something. It might not parse out that way over the long term, over a long fight. But, in content like, again, we're in Ascalon Catacombs story mode. The spike provided by Reaper Shroud is going to be tremendous. So you're going to feel very impactful. Even if, you're not going to parse out over the course of a several minute long fight at, 40 some odd thousand damage per second. Oh, an achievement. Nice. I'll take that for the achievement points, because I also had a goal of 5,000 AP on this playthrough. Should be easy enough to reach, and certainly will be if we continue to get achievements. What about you? Which class do you tend to lean towards? I mean, I could speculate. It's warrior.
I could outrun a centaur.
It'd be terrible of me to ask you a question and leave you behind while you're typing. That would be like reprehensible behavior, wouldn't it? I think they went ahead to do the Graveling Mound, though. You know, NG ended up in such a good place after being in such a difficult place for so long. I mean, now at the 11-year mark, it's still a majority of the game where NG really suffered. And then it wasn't just the introduction of Hollow and Mechanist that made a difference. Hollow made a big difference. But even with the introduction of Hollow, Rifle was still not a fun weapon to play. And then right around the same time as End of Dragons, it was right before End of Dragons, like maybe a couple months before, they overhauled Rifle. And it made a world of difference in playing NG. And suddenly NG became really like Power NG, regardless of your spec, kind of became a lot more fun with the Rifle overhaul. And then of course you add Mechanist on top of that with you know, Mace as well, and you know, the actual mech, which is kind of a fun, quirky little thing, and NG just became a great class to play all the way around. Super cool. And yeah, Warrior, I actually played my first, my first few thousand hours in Guild Wars 2 on Warrior. It was my main. I played it almost exclusively for the first few years. And that's during a period of time when I was playing the game a lot more, honestly. And playing what at the time was much higher level content than I play these days. At that time, I did have aspirations to play at the highest level. And as I got older and my life changed, that's when those aspirations went away. But, so when core classes were the only classes, core warriors is what I played for a long time. I probably shouldn't have stood in those condies. Now it's harder to waypoint. You know what I love? I love chill groups in dungeons. It feels so good. One of the things that will genuinely cause me to try and kick... I don't like toxic groups, but I will try to kick someone, which is generally something I avoid. I try not to kick, but I will vote kick if somebody is not chill with new players. That is the one thing. If a new player is trying to learn the dungeon, like right now, we can be chill and wait for these other two players who didn't understand the waypoint thing, and I love that. If someone doesn't wait, I get a tiny bit frustrated. If somebody gets like toxic and unkind towards players, not knowing a skip or something, that's when I get like downright kind of a little pissy about the whole thing. Yeah, so without a doubt, Mechanist almost ended up being like too easy. It almost ended up being like an AFK class, which is a little bit unfortunate. And so for the folks who don't like that, like I definitely understand where they're coming from. I was surprised when they rolled Mechanist out, just how simple it was. But I understand why folks like it too. Sometimes it feels good to just crash through everything, and not you know, and not feel like you're getting left behind. So I appreciate the niche it filled. Hey, awesome! Thank you for joining us for this dungeon. It was cool to get it knocked out in a chill and quick fashion, and I do appreciate that. Um, and I am about to wrap it up. I got some stuff done today, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today as well. Um, so what did we get accomplished today? We got things accomplished. Nothing flashy, but got a whole bunch of mastery points, and then kind of on a whim, ran a couple dungeons and enjoyed it. And now I'm standing next to someone dancing, and I enjoy that too. I'm not going to dance because I'm a terrible dancer, but I will allow Myth Loon here to dance while I close out my videos. So definitely appreciate folks hanging out with me on Twitch, and I enjoyed a very satisfying playthrough today, making the video as well. So thanks to all for that. Yeah, no, awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good evening as well. Thank you much.